All right, people. I think it's time that we address, athletes getting into the media space and them talking about new media and what they like and dislike about the media and how there's basically a disconnect between actual journalists and athletes that are getting into the media space. So I know everybody has talked about this Cam Newton thing here recently, and Cam Newton talking about you know um, quarterbacks that are just game managers and his interpretation. First, he didn't specify what he was talking about, and tons of people took it as disrespect. And then he came back and clarified what he was talking about, which that's part of the journalism part. Is if you don't specify what you mean, people are going to run with it and go from there. So that's part of it. You got to specify what you're talking about. But it didn't start with Cam. I mean, athletes have been in the media space for decades, literally for decades. Now, they were at major networks, doing color commentary. A lot of people didn't have platforms and podcasts. This is a relatively new thing. And for the record, I love it. I love every single bit of it. I love that athletes are coming out, telling their story, telling their truth, you know, kind of standing up to some of the narratives that have been said about them and pushing back against it. I love every bit of it. Having said that, you got to take the good with the bad. The one thing that athletes don't like about journalism, especially television journalism, is that they forget that it's entertainment. It is entertainment. I am a former athlete myself. I try to be in a space to where I'm going to make the entertainment be about what you do on the court, on the field, or something silly or slash stupid that you say. That's where I will take the entertainment to. A lot of times on television and definitely in sports radio, they will attack an athlete personally. And that's where I think the line gets crossed. And that's what athletes cannot stand, is when you attack them personally. And that's what Cam Newton was upset about. People were attacking him personally by the way he dressed, saying that he wanted to still be in the league, and just attacking him versus what he was saying. Because I think there's a lot of people, myself included, that didn't agree with what he was saying, because Cam kind of stepped over himself talking about game managers, saying, well, there's certain game managers, and he mentioned Joe Burrow as being a game changer, but then said Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were elite game managers. Well, what does Joe Burrow do on a football field that Peyton Manning and Tom Brady couldn't do? Come on, Cam. And that's why people are saying, hey, we don't agree with what he said, because he's wrong. Now, the problem that I and a lot of athletes have is, just because their opinion matters. Their opinion absolutely matters. You can't tell me that the way Cam's dressed or whatever his situation is, maybe he wants to get back in the league, maybe he doesn't. But you don't tell me that he can't have an opinion. We can all have an opinion, and everybody's opinion should matter. And Cam Newton absolutely is another person. He played in the National Football League for 11 years. He's a former MVP of the league. He has to be able to have an opinion. Now, that doesn't make his opinion right. That's where the crossover is. But I think he came back and had a good, explanation and said it doesn't make him right. But daggone it, he absolutely has the right to have that opinion. Just like somebody that never played, that studies the game or covers the game, they have the right to have an opinion too. And we don't have to agree with their opinion. And their opinion doesn't have to be right. And a lot of times it isn't. And that's okay. That's okay. But I think that's where athletes go overboard, is that they believe that only their opinion matters because they played. Only what they say is the only thing that counts because they were able to play the game at a high level. So nobody knows better than they do. It's only them. Everybody else is just pretending. That is not true. That is not the case. That is, should I say, it's It's just silly. Let's just be easy and nice about it. It's just silly because that is not just because you had the ability to play and you have the experience. That doesn't mean that you know more than somebody else that studied the game for 25, 30 years. Or that doesn't mean that you know more for somebody like me who played football, played basketball, didn't play at the highest level, but still played at a high level and was very successful. That doesn't mean you know more than me. And that's where athletes get in trouble because they only believe that it's them and nobody else. And if you can't play it, then you shouldn't be able to talk about it. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I think that's where we're at right now. We're at this butting of the heads to where journalists of the past are saying, I know what I'm talking about. I've covered this. I've studied this for decades. Athletes are, but you didn't play. So how would you know? You don't have the experience. You don't have the ability that I have. So if you don't have the ability, there's no way you can know what I can talk, what I know, and what I can talk about. You can't have that. You don't live in that space, and that's wrong. It's also wrong on journalists to think that because they didn't play, because they cover it, means they know more than a basketball player. I mean, everybody can have their opinion. Everybody can be right, and we can live happily. But we know that's not going to happen. That's a fairy tale. But that's where that's where the big disconnect is coming in. Look, Cam Newton is 100% right. He can have his opinion. Draymond Green coming out when he talks about the new media, he can have his opinion. And those guys are very knowledgeable. I think it would be a mistake to think that those guys aren't knowledgeable in what they're talking about. Not just those two. I'm talking about athletes in general. It would be a mistake by the general public to think that they don't know what they're talking about in sports or in a lot of things in general. That would be a mistake. But what isn't a mistake is when they come out and they say that nobody else can know. Or I shouldn't say that isn't a mistake. It's as equal of a mistake to come out and think that they know more than the next man, woman, whoever, just for the simple fact that they played. It is equal of a mistake. So I love what the athletes are coming out, having a platform with the new media, if you want to call it new media, but coming out with a platform, speaking their truth. I think we need more of it. We don't need less of it. We need more guys coming out talking. We need more former athletes telling their stories, letting the general public know what goes on behind the scene, what they may have been thinking during this situation. We need more of that because a lot of times in an interview and post game, adrenaline is still going. And you may not get the real answer. You may get an adrenaline-filled answer that it might be good to sell copies. It might be good for clicks, but it's not the real reason or the real answer of what goes into a decision on why they made it during this play or what they were thinking, during that play. So I think we need more athletes coming out and doing what these guys are doing, as long as they do it respectfully and they understand what they're talking about. Because we've seen them and we know there's plenty of those people out there that are just going out there doing the clickbait thing and just telling these outlandish stories and making up stuff. And to me, it's a waste of space. And it's not just athletes doing that. Heck, there's people like me. There's people, other journalists. There's just everybody going out there, just clickbait all over the place. It gets nauseating. I would try, and what I do try to do is just tell it from my perspective and what I think. And I think if more people would just do that, people would be interested. People will be interested. Just do it from that perspective. Don't try to turn everything into a clickbait fest and manufacture stuff and still make it entertaining, because you can make the truth entertaining. You absolutely can do that. People that don't believe you can, maybe you're just not funny. Did we ever think of that? Maybe you're just not entertaining. But when you have to lie and manipulate the truth and all that kind of stuff, well, okay, that's fine. That's cool to do. but then it has no substance. And that's where the athletes get so upset, is because there's no substance. That's where journalists get upset. Well, people like me that don't have a journalism degree, you know, they look at me and think, well, how does he know anything? Because people will twist the truth and twist the facts just for clicks. Everybody gets upset about that. We don't have to do that, people. We can be just as entertaining covering the truth, talking about the truth, making it be about the truth versus about what somebody looks like, attacking them personally. It doesn't have to be that. It literally doesn't have to be that, people. That's what's going on today, man. I appreciate y'all joining Big B Sports Talk. Remember, like, subscribe, follow, hit the notification bell. We'll be coming back with these all the time. You guys have a good one.